Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So if you saw the thumbnail, you know what we're doing today. I got suckered into buying a new Anastasia palette. This is the look I created with it, and if you want to see how I got this look, then just keep on watching. Okay guys, here it is, the Jackie Aina palette. And I've said this on my channel before, I think that the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow formula, I'm sure that there's worse, but I think at their price point, I don't think that their eyeshadows should be as chalky, as fallouty, is that a word? They don't last very long on the eyes. I feel like they fade very, very quickly. They don't blend well, they're very weird, but I'm a sucker for a good color story. And so every single time a new palette comes out, I end up going and buying it. It's like that woman that keeps going back to her abusive husband. So here we are again with another Anastasia palette, and I was totally sold on the color story. I saw the swatches and I'm like, oh my god, I love it so much, but don't waste your money on this palette. And I would go into Ulta and I would look at it and it's like, oh my god, it's just as pretty in person as it is online. And I would pick it up and then I would almost buy it and then I would put it back and I would walk out of the store not buying it. I've done that a couple times. So then recently I started seeing videos where people are using this palette and it's getting really good reviews and people are commenting that the formula seems to be different than the formula was previously. I went into Ulta the other day, I picked it up. It's crazy how good it is. Like, this doesn't feel like Anastasia eyeshadows. Like, it's not the same at all. They're pigmented, they go on really intense, but they blend out really easily. I feel like I had less fallout with these shadows than I've ever had with any other formula from Anastasia. And I use quite a few colors out of this already. So let me pull this out of here. You guys have already seen this. So, you know, you've got the really shiny, shimmery, like crocodile kind of pattern on here. Now, when you pull the palette out, it's like definitely similar to the packaging on the outside, but it's almost like a dimmed down version of what it looks like on the unicarton. Is that what they call these things? Yeah. Now, I kind of wish that the palette itself had like the intensity of the outside packaging, but let's be honest, you know I'm going to use this a few times and I'm going to depot it anyway, so I don't really care that much about the packaging. Now, in the look that I created the other day that I posted on Instagram, I actually used quite a few shades out of this. I used Soleil, Supreme, Pinker, Big Wig. I use Shookington, Trust Issues, Sponsored, and Ginger. So I've already used most of this palette, and I'll go ahead and insert some photos of the look that I created here in case you don't have Instagram or you didn't see it. But since I already created a look that was very like pink and purpley from this palette, I think that today I'm gonna do more like the orangey, rusty kind of tones, the browns, maybe this color down here, maybe a little bit of the red. Maybe I can mix some of that in with it too. So I think today I'm gonna start with the shade Edges, and I'm gonna build this up into the crease. I'm gonna take that on a Morphe R39, and I'm gonna start by just pressing that right into the crease. Kind of stamping in where I want like the majority of that color. And already there's definitely quite a bit of payoff with this shade. It's really pigmented and I didn't find any of the matte shades to be patchy in this palette, which again is really surprising considering it's an Anastasia palette. And I felt like the look that I did the other day actually went really quick. This is almost one of those formulas that just kind of blends itself out. You don't have to do a lot of work. You don't have to spend a shit ton of time blending things out. It happens really, really quick. So that definitely impressed me. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start to blend out the edges of the shade a little bit. Oh, and this one's called Edges too. I'm gonna blend out the edges of Edges here with the same brush. I'm not putting any more product on it. Now, I don't need to blend this out too crazy because I am going to be going in with another color along the outside edges here. I'm going to go in with Ginger in just a second, so but I do want to kind of soften this up just a tiny bit. And then just taking whatever is left on that brush, I'm going to kind of smoke out the lower lash line a little bit as well. And tapping in to get a little bit more product, and we'll go ahead and deepen that up a little bit more down here. Yeah, I just think as far as the colors in this palette goes, there's so much going on, but it all makes sense together, and there's so much versatility I think in this palette as well. So, and then the formula is just so different from anything I've ever used from this brand before. Now, I think that if they stick with this formula and release everything this way, I would be a really big fan of this brand as far as their shadows go, because this one really did impress me. I mean, look, there's no patchiness going on there, and that never ever happens. So I'm just gonna wipe this brush off on a towel that I have in my lap really quick, and then I am going to dip into the shade Ginger, which is like a lighter, it's not as much of an orangey tone as Edges is, but I think this is a really good one for blending out that shade. It's like a similar kind of shade, but it's like a totally different tone. And there's like so many new releases from Anastasia lately. I mean, there's 3 goddamn Norvina palettes coming out like all at once. Well, one of them already came out, but then there's 2 that are coming out on the same day. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so fucking overwhelmed with all these releases. But I feel like this one came out and then they immediately talked about the Norvina palettes. So I just feel like this palette didn't get the attention that it should have, which is sad because I think that the color story in this palette is way better than the color stories in any of the 3 Norvina palettes that are coming out. And there's so many colors in those palettes that all kind of read the same to me. And I don't know, this palette just kind of kept calling my name, and then I saw that those ones were coming out too, and I'm like, I don't really like those ones. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go pick up the Jackie Aina palette. And I know that Jackie was creating a palette that would work well on deeper skin tones. And I think that that's why, I don't know, I think that since the colors are darker and they're richer, they're warmer, those are the kind of tones and these are the kind of shades that I gravitate towards anyway. And I like that there's not just like another light bone colored shade in here. I like that there's not a black in this palette, because it's like, how many black eyeshadows do you need? And I've depotted all of my Anastasia palettes and they're in one big palette right now, which is probably where this one is going. But in doing that, I'm like, oh my God, how many freaking bone colors do you need? And there's a couple blacks in there, because I feel like Anastasia keeps putting black in all of their palettes. And I'm like, if you have a few of those palettes, then you just have all this black eyeshadow that you're not ever gonna use, because I mean, who's using that much black eyeshadow? I never use black eyeshadow. It's very rare anyway. All right, so then on this Morphe M507, I'm gonna go into the shade Credit, which is this deep chocolatey brown. And I know that most people probably feel the way about a dark brown eyeshadow as I feel about a black eyeshadow. Like, how many of those do you need? But I really like a dark, rich brown eyeshadow. So you can put those in every single palette and I'd be really happy about it. So, but I haven't used this shade yet, and I was really curious to see how this one did compared to a shade like what, Fudge, I think is the more popular Anastasia brown. So then taking Credit on an M213, this is also by Morphe, and I might have said in my last video that I really have been liking this brush for applying a darker shadow right at my lash line, because I feel like I just have a little bit more control with this brush than I do when I'm using a pencil brush to apply shadow right here. And I think it was maybe only $2 or $3. This was a really affordable brush, so I could probably go pick up a few more of this one. And then I'm gonna go back and forth between Edges and Ginger on this Morphe M330 and just kind of warm up the under eye a little bit more here. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add some shimmer to this look. I'm gonna use the shade Wigglies. I'm gonna take that on my finger, and I don't ever really use these cranberry red kind of shades, so I'm kind of excited to try this one out. And what I found with these shimmery or like foiled formulas in this palette, they're definitely a lot smoother than what I'm used to with the Anastasia formula. I feel like usually the shimmers are like very flaky and almost like really textured to the touch. These ones are super fucking smooth, so I'm going to add that kind of on the center, like the outer center part of the lid here, and just kind of blend that into the darker matte brown a little bit. And I'm just taking this other finger and kind of like blurring the edge there a little bit. And I found that these have pretty decent impact even without the use of like a glitter primer or anything like that. Now the foiled effect would definitely have a little bit more impact if you wet your brush or if you went over top of a glitter primer, which is normally what I would do. But these actually look really nice even without that. And then I'm going to take the shade right next to it down here in this corner called Zam, and I'm going to rub my finger right into that. Now, this one definitely seems to feel maybe a little bit drier than the other one did, but this one also looks really shimmery and maybe slightly glittery too, so it's probably just a different kind of formula than the other one. Oh shit, yeah, that looks awesome. That looks really cool. I think that this one over top of a glitter primer would look really fucking rad. That one is just really reflective and really shiny. Now with that shade, I do want to see if I can get a little bit more intensity of it with the wet brush. So I'm going to take this Mario Badescu setting spray and a Morphe M421. Yeah, that one definitely has more intensity with the wet brush, but I think that the next time that I use it, I'm definitely gonna pop that over top of a glitter primer because I think that that will just be fucking obnoxious, so. And there's definitely quite a bit more fallout with this shade than there has been with any of the other ones, but this is one of those like really flaky, foiled, shimmery, maybe glittery kind of formulas, so I kind of expect that there's going to be a little bit more fallout with that one, but I don't know if that looks a little bit more intense there than it looks over here. Yeah, probably just a little bit there. So then with the look that I created the other day, I used Trust Issues on my inner corner, and that color is really fucking cool, which I might actually use that on my brow bone, but I kind of want to use Soleil on my inner corner today. So I'm going to take a pencil brush. This is a MAC 219. It's so old that the numbers have worn off, and pop that shade into my inner corner. And that actually might be just a little bit more bright than I thought it was going to be, judging by what it looked like in the palette. It's really pretty, but I do kind of want to pop Trust Issues right over top of it too, just to, I don't know, add a little bit more something there, add a little bit more lightness and brightness to it. So fuck it, let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to pop a little bit of Trust Issues just right over the top. And one of the many things that I love about this palette is that it doesn't matter how many colors you use and how you're mixing them together, since they're all definitely a little bit more on the warmer side, you're never gonna get muddiness. I mean, that's what I found so far, and this is only the second time that I've used this palette, but again, I really have used almost every shade in here so far, so. And then I'm going to take Trust Issues again, and this one, I will never be able to tell you what it is. This is a MAC brush, but like where the number was, it's all gone. The paint completely chipped off, so I don't know what this is, but I'm going to dip into Trust Issues. I'm just going to hit right here underneath the eyebrow. Now, I did find Trust Issues to be pretty flaky and maybe not as smooth as I would want a color like this to be, but I still really like it. So I think that's gonna be it for the eyeshadow look. So let me go ahead and get some Coffee Pencil by MAC on my waterline, some mascara, maybe figure out a lip situation here really quick, and I will be right back with the final look. And there we have the finished look. Something else that I got recently that I don't know that I've used on my channel yet is this MAC lip gloss in the shade Pretty Peppa. But what I like about this one is that it's pigmented enough that even as it wears down, there's still a little bit of, not a stain, but there's just still a little bit of color left behind, where I feel like a lot of the MAC lip glosses, especially the ones that are like nude shades, once they wear down a little bit, it's like the color's just gone, you know, where this one just kind of keeps color around for a little bit. And I thought it went really well with the color that I have on my eyes, which, thinking about it, as I was finishing everything up, I was like, wait, did I just create this exact same look with the Wet n Wild palette last week? I think maybe I did. I think it's very similar. But again, I had already used quite a few of the colors out of this palette already, so I wanted to go in and use the shades that I hadn't tried yet. So this is what we came up with today. This is the finished look. I'm really fucking happy with it. I'm really excited about this palette. And I think it kind of sucks for Jackie Aina that they just released this palette really quick, and then a few days later they were like, oh, we have these Norvina palettes coming out. So this one came out, and I don't think anybody really cared about it. Not that nobody cared about it, but they just didn't have time to process that there was a new palette and something to get excited about and to go buy before they were like, oh, and then we have this, and then we have this, and then we have this. So again, I think it kind of sucks for her. I hope that it sold really well because, again, like the color story and this palette, I just think I was more drawn to this than I was any of the other new stuff that's coming out. So I am happy that I picked this one up. I think I've pretty much used everything out of this now, except for I haven't used the shade Dwalas and I haven't used Lituation. So I haven't used those two, but I'll definitely try to incorporate those two colors into the next look I create with this palette. It'll be up on my Instagram page. Follow me there if you're not already. If you haven't tried this palette out, and if you're not a fan of Anastasia eyeshadows, like I'm really not, try this one out. And I hope that Anastasia sticks with this formula for their eyeshadows in the future because it's really fucking good. It's so much different than anything else they've released before. Everything is really pigmented, everything is really blendable, and everything lasts for a long time. These colors don't fade throughout the day. So I love it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.